Hey guys, Johnny Crims 2000 here for a new episode of Hidden Gaming Gems. Today I'm going to be looking at a game that in my opinion is the epitome of a hidden gem. Rare, beautiful to look at, and worth the effort to get. Today I'm going to be looking at Silhouette Mirage by Treasure. First things first, Treasure is one of my absolute favorite gaming companies of all time. Not only are their games fun to play, but they exude creativity and uniqueness, thanks in part to their great imagination and their policy of avoiding sequels, which means that whenever you get your hands on a Treasure game, you're pretty much guaranteed an experience you won't find anywhere else, even from Treasure themselves, and Silhouette Mirage is a great example of this. Silhouette Mirage was initially released in Japan for the Sega Saturn in 1997 and was later ported to the PS1 in 1998, and finally had a PS1 release in America in 1999. The story behind this game is rather simple yet creative as well. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where a computer system known as Edo has developed two forms of attributes known as silhouettes and mirages, both of which are opposing forces that need one another to survive, in the same nature as yin and yang. And from these two forces, an entity known as Armageddon manifested, representing both Silhouette and Mirage. Unfortunately, these two entities despised each other, and Armageddon split into the two leaders that would represent each faction, Megiddo, the leader of the Silhouettes, and Hal, the leader of the Mirages. A war soon broke out between the two sides, threatening to destroy the Earth. Luckily, the computer system known as Gehenna created a new being known as the Messenger of Justice who possessed both characteristics in an attempt to stop all the fighting and neutralize all the destruction caused by the Edo computer system. In the game, you take control of this Messenger of Justice, otherwise known as Sheena, and you use her dual nature to your advantage. You go through various levels in a side-scrolling shooter, plowing your way through various enemies and bosses. While this may seem standard fare, the dual mechanic is what really makes this game truly unique. You see, almost every enemy is represented as being either a silhouette or a mirage, and they need to be taken out accordingly. You do so by exploiting Sheena's dual nature. In the actual gameplay, this means that when Sheena is facing to the right, by default she possesses mirage properties, and when she's facing to the left, she has silhouette properties. What this means is that if you attack an enemy who is the opposite property of your own, they will take damage. However, if you are the same property, something different happens. Along with your usual health meter, you also have a spirit meter. If you are attacked by an enemy who shares the same property as your own, you don't lose health but rather spirit. The lower your spirit meter becomes, the weaker your attacks become as well. This also applies to enemies, so there is a strategy involved whenever you're trying to take out a group of enemies. Do you try to plow right through them and risk taking damage, or do you weaken them first by training some of their spirit? Along with this function, your spirit meter can also be used to switch up which side functions as your mirage in silhouette so that you don't get stuck using the default right for mirage and left for silhouette settings. You are also given the chance to upgrade your firing weapon, which are actually known as parasites in this game. Along your journey, you'll run into various small shops run by rabbits who will sell you various items and weapon upgrades. There are various different kinds of weapons, each with a specific function. Some include a boomerang, a laser, and one that explodes on contact. Each one of these can be powered up to deal out much more damage each time you upgrade it. You can also buy health items, which come in handy since health can be rather sparse in certain areas. The fun thing about this shop system, however, comes in how you get the money to pay for these items. You do get a bit of money every time you defeat an enemy, but the more effective way to get money is to run up to an enemy and shake the money out of them, a move known as the cash bash. I don't know about anybody else, but it is incredibly satisfying going up to random enemies and mugging them for their money. As is Treasure tradition, the other highlight of their games is the boss battles and just how insanely quirky the characters are. For starters, the bosses are nothing short of genius. Every boss has a distinct strategy that needs to be used in order to beat them and has just as much creativity going into them. Just to name a few examples, one of my favorites is one where you fight on the roof of a limo that's riding around the city while trying to avoid a madman in a Jason hockey mask. Another one has you fighting a samurai in front of an apartment building. As the battle goes on, the residents get increasingly annoyed by all the noise and start throwing trash towards you, showing their frustration. And finally, one of the most unique boss fights has you fighting the boss by making soup of all things. Yes, you defeat the boss by making soup. Genius. Presentation-wise, this game really attempted to create a fun and unique experience. The characters are all drawn in an anime art style, which is highlighted by the anime opening cinema and the well-drawn character portraits throughout the game. As mentioned before, the character and boss designs are nothing short of creative genius and include design styles that I have a hard time finding in any other game. The overall look of this game was really well made, and I absolutely love the post-apocalyptic yet still futuristic design this game has going on. The music is also a highlight of this game for sure. While some people may not agree, I find that the music fit this game rather well, and it almost reminded me of the kind of music that you could find in a Mega Man game, oddly enough. A nice mix of techno tunes really gets you into the heat of action, as it can pick up during really intense scenes or slow down when at the most appropriate. So now comes the part where I talk about why this game was not remembered much since its release. As mentioned before, a big part could be due to Treasure themselves, as they are oftentimes seen as a more low-key gaming company. The lack of a sequel and more ports could have also hurt this game's chances of being more exposed as well. The only port that American gamers got was the PlayStation version, which for all intents and purposes was slightly inferior to the Saturn version. The Saturn version runs slightly better with shorter load times, included more graphical details, and its gameplay was overall more accessible. By comparison, the PlayStation version did include an extra boss fight, but some strange modifications to the gameplay made it more difficult as well. The major change being that your weapons now drain your spirit meter whenever they're used. Coincidentally, this is the only version American gamers got to play, which may have hurt its chances of appealing to a larger audience, especially since it was a 2D side-scroller during a time when even Mega Man was beginning to lose his thunder. Regardless, this game is still a must-have for both fans of Treasure and for those looking for something unique to play. While the PlayStation version is easily accessible online, though still rather pricey, if you have the chance, I suggest getting the Saturn version, as I feel that this version offers a more defined and accessible experience. Be warned that it is in Japanese, though this shouldn't become too much of an issue. If you give it a chance, I think you'll find a game that any fan of 2D side-scrollers will enjoy. As always, if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to get more stuff from me. In the meantime, if you like my videos, be sure to find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Raptr, and Screwattack.com to see the other gaming related content that I upload. Info is in the description. Who knows? Maybe you'll like my stuff. Maybe? Maybe?